We're joined by Mark Zimmer, who's the Reform candidate in Portsmouth South, and he's going to talk to us about what he feels are the high points of the Reform manifesto or contract, as they've termed it.
Well, I'm going to start off with law and order. Basically, it needs a urgent reform. Basically, it's, like everybody says, increase the police numbers, but we need to increase the police numbers per capita. In other words, like 300 police to 100,000 people in the population. So that's over a course of 5 years. That'd be 40,000 officers. Commence a zero policy on policing. We don't accept that having a shoplifter go into a shop and to take, well, the shopkeepers take abuse, and not only that, they're taking produce and get away with it. Why? When did this happen? Who allows this to happen? So that is zero tolerance, antisocial behaviour. This infringes upon everybody else's lives. So when we say antisocial behaviour, that can be verbal as well as physical. Now, these should be dealt with, and the perpetrators, or the abusers to be quite honest, should then serve a social service. They've got to spend their time putting something back into the community. By that, hopefully, then they'll start feeling part of the community again, because a lot of this is where everybody's stopped becoming a community. So that will help them and depoliticize the College of Policing. It's the police need to be separate. It's a separate entity. There's no bending of the knee. There's no wearing armbands, regardless of what armbands. The police are the police. And to be quite honest, they need to be respected. But to be respected, they've got to be looking the part and being the part. Physically trained, mentally astute, without being controlled by political parties. Is the uncontrolled immigration. It's not the immigration we're against. It's this mass explosion of the population. We can't assimilate everybody. We can't control our own borders. You know, going back to the previous on the crime and policing, law and order start at the border. And now, if we can't control our borders, that's when you stop becoming a country. Again, and with mass immigration, we do need immigration. There is no ifs and buts about it. I'm not saying I'm anti-immigrant. Crikey, my surname's Zimmer. 3 generations ago, on my paternal side, they come over from Germany. So it's being part of Europe, but not in Europe. But on the immigration side, when we say stop the boats, the reason we say stop the boats is to show that we are in control of our borders. But the French government has just been taking the money and it's been paying for their diesel to escort boats to our boats. But by law, they should stop them. Belgium do it, but the French aren't. But so yes, it would be pick up and take back. Yes, there'd be furore from the French. There usually is. You do that every time you go away on holiday. Look at the queues. The French are the French. But that's part of being. Obviously, immediately deport foreign criminals. Why should we taxpayers pay for somebody who's a foreign criminal to be in our prisons? NHS, I know that. And that's a very important part. That's why we're saying we're not freezing immigration, but essential immigration does not come under what we're saying when we say freeze it. So I'm going to move on from that one. Education. Now, what we're saying is in education is to stop let's just ban transgender ideology in primary schools and secondary schools. It's not needed. I think education, maths, history, English, we need to know where we come from, not where we think we might be going. Tax relief, 20% on all independent schools. Now, we should be encouraging, if you're in a position to pay for your child's education for the benefit of that child, then do it. But there should be we should be saying, well, thank you. That frees up our state schools. Our state schools are pretty good. Our teachers are working really hard, but our teachers aren't being supported. So, yes, it's state schools. If you get, for independent education, a 20% tax deduction, that frees up our state schools. We can put more money into our state schools and support the teachers and support the students. There's disruptive students, yes, but there are places you can put these disruptive students, but that isn't for punishment. This is just to help them get over the issues they've got, and they can grow into those people. Scrap the interest on student loans. It's crucifying everybody, and extend the payment period up to 45 years. Plus the fact, take away, or at least put in place, two courses that are 2-year duration. If you could complete your course in 2 years and save yourself spending that extra year, there's still plenty of time to go out and party, but you save an extra year of costings within universities. For one thing, universities, there are, I would cut the funding to universities that undermine free speech. You should have free speech. Universities, that's where you should have debates. We're proposing that frontline staff, and that includes social service staff, frontline staff, don't pay the basic rate of tax for 3 years. Where that money is covered from is there is so much wastage in the NHS, but at the end of the day, there's too many managers. We want more people, and rather than nurses coming in on a degree, train on the job. Independent healthcare capacity. Now, if somebody can afford, it'd be like with the education, if they can afford to pay for an insurance policy, to have private health insurance, then again, they should be given a tax deduction for using that. Not everybody can afford that, but the ones who can afford it, I think they should be encouraged to do it, not penalised because they can. That frees it up for other people. Scrapping the net zero. Yes, we are aware and concerned about the environment. I've got 3 children, 4 grandchildren. So I'm not just doing it for me. It's not, I want money in my pocket. I want them to actually start from a firm base. So by ditching the net zero can save the public sector over 30 billion. Again, because we're not subsidising wind turbines, solar panels. We've got the energy there. Let's use it. We're just importing the gas because, as you know, when the sun doesn't shine, the wind doesn't blow. We're still got to make a cup of tea. So it's scrapping the net zero, and employer immigration tax, which would boost. So if we've done that, then the employers will start looking to employ and train UK-based citizens. So the money saving there, or the money that will be made on adding that tax, we're looking at about we could raise more than 20 billion over a 5 years to pay for apprenticeships. In fact, raised the basic rate of tax from 12.5%, which I think has been like that for the last 4 years, up to £20,000 before you start paying tax. Yes, that's a big sum, but that will be paid for by people who actually can get back into work. It make, again, you've heard it before, and it make work pay. It's such an easy thing to come off your tongue, but it does make work pay. A lot of people are trapped in that in the poverty trap. Is if they work more than 16 hours, it's not worth them doing any more work. So they're trapped. That will save like 15 billion, a billion per annum. But again, it's people being able to earn their money and to pay for things rather than only earn so much and then the government having to pay for things. People don't want to be in that position. The more and more people that are being crammed into Portsmouth, and we're not talking about migration or anything like that, it's just people in general, everybody. We've again, with too many people being crammed in, HMOs are popping up left, right and centre. That isn't the way forward. That is temporary accommodation. Basically, it's bare tit land. So we've got to move away from that. It's having more police on the beat, zero tolerance, looking after the people who live here, looking after the people who work here, and looking after the business that give us something to go out to and to socialise in. So law and order, zero tolerance. That is one of the main things. If you haven't got law and order, you've got no order. How can you build from that?
And the full list of candidates for Portsmouth South: for the Conservative Party, Signe Biddle; for Labour, Stephen Morgan; for the Liberal Democrats, Charles Murphy; for the Green Party, Elliot Lee; for Reform, Mark Zimmer; and for the Portsmouth Independence Party, Jacob Short. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Pompey Politics Podcast. Don't forget to like, follow and comment on Facebook, or comment and subscribe on YouTube. Don't forget that bell notification icon so you get your notification when we're next live. We usually go live 6:27 p.m. on a Sunday evening. Find us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, X, YouTube, Threads, LinkedIn. Don't forget to have a look at our website where you can find details of all of our previous and upcoming shows. That's pppodcast.uk, pppodcast.uk. Thank you. Feel free to leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts, and you can even ask Alexa to play the podcast for you. Alexa, play the latest episode of the Pompey Politics Podcast.
Getting Pompey Politics Podcast from Amazon Music.
Alexa,
playing the latest episode.
stop. See? It's easy.